Hello everyone, I wish you peace and happiness. Are you all healthy? Today, I will continue to tell you what happened to little Micah after Huyen went to work in Huyen and Appos. Find her anywhere. Huyen plunged into the murky water, her hands flailing desperately as if to cling to a fragile hope. Water splashed around her, mingling with the muffled calls. End quote, Micah. Micah, please. End quote. Huyen and Appos' face paled, tears mixing with the lake water, her panicked eyes frantically searching for her daughter's silhouette. The bushes along the shore swayed, the water rippled, but all she received in return was terrifying silence. Huyen kept diving and surfacing repeatedly, her breath ragged, her heart pounding as if it were tightening with each beat. In that moment she nearly lost her mind, with only one thought remaining: to find Micah, no matter the cost. She shouted repeatedly, calling my name until her voice was hoarse, each end quote. Micah, oi, end quote, breaking out in despair and then dissolving into the eerily silent void. Her hands groped aimlessly in the murky water, sinking down and then surfacing again, but all was just hopeless emptiness. Her breath came in rapid gasps, and Huyen seemed to have no strength left. In that moment everything inside her seemed to collapse: trust, hope, even her last ounce of energy, leaving only heart-wrenching pain and numb despair. On the shore the small dog stood trembling, its wet fur matted, eyes fixed intently on Huyen underwater. It barked repeatedly, each sound urgent and desperate, as if trying to call her back. Occasionally it ran a few steps along the water and Appos' edge, then turned to look at Huyen, barking even louder, as if trying to signal something at Huyen and Appos' put into words. Its eyes were filled with worry and impatience, as if it knew something important, a place somewhere, but could only use its barking to catch Huyen and Appos' attention amid the despair. Brother clings firmly to the guava tree trunk, skillfully climbing higher step by step. One hand holds the branch, while the other reaches out to pick the lush, round guavas still glistening with dew. Occasionally, he lifts them up to examine and then smiles contentedly before picking them down. At the base of the tree, little Micah sits attentively looking up, her eyes sparkling with anticipation, occasionally calling out excitedly. The guavas are gently dropped beside her one by one, rolling on the dry leaves. Gently sat down beside Micah, gathering the ripe guavas in front of him. He used his hand to split each fruit open, revealing the crunchy white flesh inside, then handed it to her. Micah took the piece of guava, her eyes shining with delight, eating and giggling softly. Looked at her with a gentle smile, occasionally selecting the best fruits, carefully splitting them and giving her each piece. He tenderly fed her small bites, softly blowing as if worried she might choke, while smiling gently. Micah opened her mouth happily, her sparkling eyes looking at him with trust, occasionally giggling. Patiently fed her each piece, occasionally wiping the water from the corner of her mouth. In the peaceful garden that scene was simple but warm, like a silent embrace of love surrounding Micah's childhood. Huyen was lying half in the murky water, her upper body tightly pressed against the shore as if trying to hold on to her last bit of strength. Her clothes were soaked through, covered in mud, and her hair was matted to her pale face. One hand clawed at the edge of the bank, her fingers trembling, while her head rested on the ground, her eyes closed in exhaustion. Her breathing was heavy and interrupted, as if she had just endured a desperate struggle. In that moment Huyen was not only physically exhausted but also seemed to have lost her spirit. Pain and helplessness overwhelmed her, making her almost unable to stand up. On denane hang dat tung ming chobi Micah, on mat de yuthwang doi theo tung nu koi han nin kwa bi. And zong on voi te hayamoti bong hoa no. Kio liot sai len mai tak imem kwa Micah. Keen bi tik Thursday duate cham veo roy koi kuk kitch. Onda omb veo long. Viov diodong nu muan jutron koan kok bin yen I. Roy hai bac chow nam te now ryu rit tiaro chuyen. Kung byuk di duitan kazen mat. Are you now sang vuan bin hien hung qua mai ti chen? Mang theonym vuijon divam ap quatin than. Huyen struggles to crawl inch by inch up the slippery bamboo bridge, her trembling hands clutching the cold, wet bamboo poles. Her body is covered in mud, her clothes soaked with water and pressed tightly against her. Every movement feels heavy as if being pulled back. As she tries to get up, she sobs with choked tears, her voice breaking. Micah, where are you? Huyen and Apos. Red-rimmed eyes scan the murky water full of despair. Nearby, her small dog stands restless, barking incessantly as if searching with her. In the silent space, the image of Huyen collapsing on the bamboo bridge, exhausted and pained, calling for her child, makes the scene painfully heartbreaking. Brother Da is holding baby Micah close to the tree trunk, lifting the baby up while pointing at the bunches of jackfruits hanging from the branches. Micah curiously reaches out to touch them, but all the fruits are still green, with hard shells and no fragrant smell yet. Brother Da gently smiles, softly explaining, then switches to touch another fruit, but it is still unripe. Baby Micah pouts slightly, her eyes looking up as if in regret, while Brother Da just pats her head and soothes her. Under the shady canopy of the tree, the uncle and nephew patiently search, hoping to soon find a ripe, golden sweet jackfruit. After searching through all the branches and still not finding any ripe jackfruits, Mr. Da sighed softly and looked at little Micah. Seeing that the child was starting to get tired and no longer as enthusiastic as at first, he gently carried her down, smiling softly as if soothing her. He decided to invite Micah to go back, his mind suddenly recalling Huyen waiting at home. The grandfather and granddaughter held hands as they walked under the trees, leaving behind the green jackfruits, carrying a little regret but also warmth when thinking about returning to their mother. Just as I was nearing home, I suddenly heard Huyen call out Micah oi, loudly and panicked. He was startled, quickly picked up little Micah and ran towards the sound. When he arrived, he saw Huyen soaked, covered in mud, with a pale face from exhaustion and worry, and he couldn't and Apos. Help but be stunned. He put Micah down and helped Huyen, asking anxiously, what happened? Micah also held tightly to her mother, confused and not understanding what was going on, while Huyen could only look at her child with tears of fear streaming down her face. Huyen suddenly pushed Da away, her hands trembling but determined, her eyes still filled with panic. She tightly embraced Micah, as if afraid that just a slight looseness would make her disappear again. Huyen and Apos' voice was hoarse, choked in her throat, why did you take my child away? Go away! Da stood still, stunned by her reaction, unable to say anything. The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy and oppressive, only the sound of hurried breathing and tears streaming down Huyen and Apos' face remained. A mother who had just experienced the ultimate fear of losing her child. Huyen used all her remaining strength to push Da away, her eyes both furious and pained. She tightly embraced Micah, her voice choked but still firm, go away. Leave my house, Don and Apos. Bother my mother and us anymore. The space seemed to fall silent after those words. Da froze, his hand hanging loosely, his face showing a hint of shock and disappointment. Meanwhile, Huyen turned her face away, tears still falling, clutching her child and trembling as if trying to build a wall to protect the only thing she had left. Da gently bowed his head, his voice low and full of remorse. I and Apos am sorry. I didn't and Apos mean to. He looked at Huyen, his eyes sincere mixed with worry, and continued, when I came to visit, I saw Micah alone and didn't and Apos see you anywhere, so I was afraid something had happened and I took her out to play to cheer her up. His hand reached out as if to explain further but then hesitated, not daring to touch. Da only knew how to stand silently, hoping Huyen would understand his unintentional actions, while the atmosphere between them remained heavy with misunderstandings and lingering worries. Huyen still held Micah tightly in her arms, her eyes turning cold as she decisively turned her face away. Even though Da had bowed his head to apologize, she said nothing further, as if creating an insurmountable distance. In the face of that heavy silence, Da sighed, his eyes slightly sad. He turned his back and walked away slowly, each step heavy with feelings of guilt and regret. Behind him, Huyen still sat there, holding her child tightly, while the space around the small house became quiet, as if preserving the echo of a misunderstanding that had not yet been resolved. Huyen sat down on the dirt road, holding little Micah tightly in her arms as if embracing her entire world. She buried her face in her child and Appo's shoulder, her hands clenched tightly, trembling, as if afraid that letting go would cause her to lose her again. Micah wrapped her arms around her mother and Appo's neck, resting her head on her shoulder, confused but also soothed by the warm embrace. The wind gently swayed the flowers by the roadside. The surrounding space fell silent, leaving only the breath and the pounding heartbeat of the mother, who had just experienced the fear of losing her child. In that moment Huyen said nothing, but the tearful hug spoke for everything: love, pain, and the boundless gratitude she felt for her little daughter. Huyen gently carried Micah into the house, her steps slow but careful, as if afraid of waking or startling the child further. She placed the baby on the small bed and gently pulled the thin blanket over her. Huyen and Appo's hands still trembled as she softly stroked Micah and Appo's tousled hair, her eyes calming after the panic. She sat beside the bed, silently watching her child for a long moment, as if to be sure that she was still there, safe in her arms. Huyen quietly stepped out onto the riverbank, where the familiar small bamboo bridge was located. The water was still murky, silent, as if holding back everything that had just happened. She sat down at the edge of the bridge, cupped her hands to scoop water and wash her face, the layer of mud gradually washing away, but the exhaustion still clearly visible on her face. Then Huyen slowly stepped into the water, letting the cool stream embrace her body, as if trying to wash away all the fear and panic inside her. She stood still for a moment, gazing into the distance, then sighed softly, a heavy breath after everything she had just experienced. She combed her slightly messy hair again. The wet strands gradually settled into place, and her face also softened, appearing less tired. Huyen sat down by the fire, her hands gently reaching out to warm in front of the flickering flame. The firelight reflected on her face, highlighting her exhaustion and dazed eyes. Although she had changed her clothes and brushed her hair, her mind was still swirling with what had just happened. The crackling of the wood echoed in the quiet space, deepening her sense of emptiness. Huyen sat silently, her gaze unfocused, as if she still couldn't and Appo's believed that the nightmare was over, and her heart was still trembling with the fear of losing her child, which had not yet subsided. Huyen stood up, quietly entered the house, then carried Micah outside to sit on a small chair, holding her child in her arms, but tears still silently fell. Seeing her mother like that, Micah looked confused, then gently raised her tiny hand to wipe the tears on Huyen and Appo's cheek. Her small, clear eyes were full of worry and love. Huyen paused briefly, looked at her child, then hugged Micah more tightly, tears still falling, but this time not only out of fear but also from the emotional warmth of her innocent, loving child. Huyen held Micah tightly in her arms, gently stroking her soft hair, her voice soft but still trembling, and quote, "From now on you must not go with strangers anymore," end quote. She looked down into her child and Appo's clear eyes, as if wanting her to understand all the fear she had just experienced. Micah nodded softly, snuggling close to her mother. Huyen tightened her embrace slightly, soothing and self-comforting, her heart still aching every time she thought about the moment she almost lost her child. Huyen stood up to get a basin of water, carefully carrying the boiling water she just boiled and pouring it into a small basin, gently stirring with her hand to make the water warm enough, avoiding burns. Once finished, Huyen turned back to carry Micah to the water basin, her eyes softer as she looked at her child. Huyen gently dipped a cloth into the warm water, wrung it out and wiped Micah and Appo's face little by little. Her movements were slow and careful, as if afraid of causing discomfort to her child. Then she gently washed Micah and Appo's hair, her hands softly massaging the hair while soothing her. Warm water flowed through the hair, washing away dirt and leaving a gentle scent. Afterward, Huyen bathed Micah, wiping and cuddling her, her eyes full of love. After all the chaos just now, she wanted to take care of and bathe her child herself to keep her clean, as a way to protect and make up for her. Huyen carried baby Micah into the house, sat the child on a small bed, and then used a soft towel to dry the baby and Appo's body. She gently wiped each arm, leg, and then the wet hair, her movements careful and full of tenderness. Afterwards, Huyen took a clean set of clothes and dressed Micah, smoothing out each fold of the shirt to make it neat. Seeing her child dry and tidy, she softly smiled, her eyes gentler, as if she had just found a moment of peace after a turbulent time. Huyen walked over to the corner of the kitchen, took out the bag of meat she bought at the market earlier that morning. She opened it, washed it thoroughly, and started preparing to cook. Huyen placed a pot on the stove, added the meat, and stir-fried until it was browned, with a fragrant aroma rising and blending with the thin smoke. When the meat had absorbed the seasonings evenly, she gently poured in water and waited for the pot to come to a gentle boil. Meanwhile, Huyen sat down, took a knife and peeled the squash. She cut the squash into bite-sized pieces, ready to be added to the boiling soup later. The warm kitchen space, the sound of boiling water, and the aroma of food spreading made the small house feel more peaceful, as if it was easing some of the recent worries. Although still tired, Huyen tried her best to cook a warm meal for her and her daughter. Occasionally, she looked over at Micah sitting quietly, her eyes softening. Huyen decided to go to the garden, selecting long, straight, and sturdy bamboo sticks. She used her strength to gather them into a large bundle, then tightly hugged it to her chest, taking slow but deliberate steps. The damp dirt path made walking more difficult, but Huyen persisted. Upon reaching the riverbank, where a small bamboo bridge was located, she placed the entire bundle down by the shore and took a deep breath. Huyen stood by the riverbank, looking towards the bamboo bridge, then quietly began her work. She chose the sturdiest bamboo stakes, sharpened the ends and hammered them deep into the ground with force. Each decisive strike echoed through the quiet space. Sweat dotted her forehead, and her hands gradually reddened from gripping tightly and exerting force, but Huyen did not stop. She erected each bamboo stake into a sturdy fence. After finishing the last stakes, Huyen paused briefly to catch her breath, then began checking each one. She gently shook them to test their stability. If any wobbled, she would bend down and hammer them in more securely. Huyen and Appo's gaze was focused and meticulous, not missing a single spot. When she was sure the fence was secure, she let out a gentle breath and wiped the sweat from her forehead. Micah sat beside, holding a small piece of food, eating while attentively watching Huyen work. The child and Appo's eyes followed every movement of her mother, from driving the bamboo stakes to checking the fence again. Occasionally, Micah would lift her head and softly call out, as if wanting her mother's attention, then smile innocently. Huyen turned to look at her child, her eyes softening, mixed with a touch of warmth amidst the hardships. Huyen sat down beside the bamboo bundle, holding a knife to cut the bamboo into small sections. Her hands moved swiftly but carefully, ensuring the sticks were even and not broken. Then she arranged them, fitting each piece together, and tied them tightly with string to form the frame of a door. Each knot was tightened securely, and each bamboo stick was aligned neatly. Despite the meticulous and exhausting work, Huyen remained patient and finished it all. As the door gradually took shape, she looked at it for a moment, a sense of reassurance rising in her heart, like she had just built a protective barrier for her daughter. Seeing her mother working alone, little Micah suddenly ran over quickly, her tiny hands trying to pick up the bamboo sticks placed next to Huyen. She handed each stick to her mother, her face full of excitement as if eager to help. Huyen looked at her child, smiled softly, and her eyes became gentle. She worked while gently showing her how to hand the bamboo, occasionally patting her child and Appo's head with love. Although Micah and Appo's help was still clumsy to Huyen, it was a great encouragement. Huyen paused for a moment, raised her hand in front of little Micah, and softly said, "Mom got cut by a bamboo splinter, and my hand is broken." The small scratch bleeding on her finger made her frown slightly, but her voice remained gentle. Micah stared intently at her mother and Appo's hand, her big eyes filled with worry, then gently touched it with her tiny hand as if to comfort her. Huyen smiled, stroked her child and Appo's head, feeling pain but also a warmer heart when she saw the innocent concern in her little one. After hearing that Mom had a cut on her hand, little Micah hurried into the house. A moment later, she clumsily held a glass of water, gripping it tightly as if afraid of spilling, then carefully took each step to bring it to Huyen. Her face was serious mixed with worry, and her eyes looked at her mother with concern. Huyen took the glass of water, smiled softly with emotion, and gently patted her child and Appo's head. "Thank you, Micah." The small bamboo door was gradually completed under Huyen and Appo's skillful hands. The bamboo slats were neatly joined and tightly bound together to form a sturdy door. She carefully adjusted each part, tightening the knots to ensure they were secure. Beside her, little Micah stood watching, occasionally handing her more bamboo slats. Huyen used both hands to lift the bamboo door she had just made, taking slow steps to carry it toward the bridge. She tentatively placed it on the pathway, carefully fitting it between 2 rows of bamboo stakes, then stepped back to observe. Afterwards, Huyen gently pushed it to test its fit and sturdiness, making small adjustments to tighten it further. Her eyes were focused and attentive. When she saw that the door fit perfectly with the pathway, Huyen exhaled softly, feeling relieved. Micah ran over, her tiny hands trying to hold the bamboo door still according to her mother's instructions. Huyen took the opportunity to bend down, using pliers to tightly twist the steel wires, securing each joint between the door and the bamboo stakes. The metallic sound of catch-catch rang out steadily, as each loop of wire was tightened more securely. Occasionally, Huyen looked up to remind the child to hold on tight, then continued her work. When all the ties were fixed, she gently pushed the door. It stood firm. Huyen smiled, patted Micah's head. Her eyes warmed because the mother and daughter had just completed an important task together. Mother and daughter together tried to open the bamboo door, then close it again. The bamboo touches lightly, producing a dry but firm sound. Huyen pushes a few times, carefully observing each joint, and sees that the door is functioning stably. She then bends down, uses steel wire to tightly secure the remaining parts, twisting each loop carefully so the door doesn't and Appo's become loose. Her hands work meticulously, paying attention to every detail. When finished, Huyen stands up, looks back once, then gently nods in satisfaction. From now on, the entrance to the bridge has a sturdy door, enough to make her feel more secure when leaving her child nearby. Huyen took the steel wires again, bent down to tie them around the bamboo stakes to reinforce the fence. She threaded the wire through each gap, tightening each knot, and tied them again if they were still loose. Her hands moved swiftly but carefully, meticulously handling every detail. Micah runs over quickly, her voice tiny but clear. "Mommy, I and Appo's am hungry." Hearing that, Huyen quickly turns back, her face softening. She crouches down to pick up the child, holding her in her arms and gently soothing. "Yes, I know, let me feed you." Micah rests her head on her mother and Appo's shoulder, her eyes half closed from tiredness and hunger. Huyen gently held Micah and Appo's hand and looked directly at her, her voice soft but firm. "From now on you have to be careful. You must not go with strangers anymore, it worries me a lot." And you also must not go out to play on this bridge alone, understand? End quote. She said this while gently stroking her child and Appo's hair, her eyes filled with worry mixed with love. Micah looked up at her mother, nodded softly, and then hugged her tightly as if she understood. Huyen held her close, her heart still aching, but feeling more at ease seeing her obedient and listening. Huyen carried baby Micah into the house, gently set her down, and the two of them started to prepare the meal together. Huyen stood by the stove, scooping rice into a bowl, and placing hot dishes onto the tray. Meanwhile, Micah happily ran to get a small chair, pulling it closer to the table with great effort. Watching her help, Huyen softly smiled, her eyes gentle. In the simple house, every small action of the mother and daughter blended together, creating a warm and peaceful atmosphere after a day full of upheavals. Late afternoon falls. Huyen and Appo's small house warms up with the glow of yellow lights and the fragrant smell of freshly cooked rice. Huyen and her daughter Micah sit together at a simple yet loving meal. Micah obediently uses her small chopsticks to pick the tastiest piece of food and place it into her mother and Appo's bowl, her innocent yet caring eyes making Huyen smile gently. In contrast, Huyen gently peels each piece of meat, choosing the best parts to put into her child and Appo's bowl, her hands slow and warm, as if conveying all her love through each small gesture. Under the table, the little dog happily has its own meal, occasionally wagging its tail as if it also feels the joyful, cozy atmosphere. In that simple moment, there is nothing luxurious, only the warm love spreading throughout the small house. When the meal ends, the three of them look at each other, their eyes peaceful as if closing a long, tiring but loving day. If everyone loves Huyen and Micah and Appo's mother and child, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a word of encouragement for the two of them to see the next developments. Every follow and every loving comment from everyone will be a source of comfort and strength to help Huyen get through the difficult days. Thank you all very much.